etc., etc., etc. Part 3 here, people, part 3. So college. Now, what are some currently successful, really socialist, yet democratic countries? They have elected officials. Their government is generally honest and open. One of the most socialism countries in the world that's not a dictatorship, like Russia and China, or is Denmark. And in Denmark, you get paid to go to college, right? You guys are all choosing to continue to improve yourselves so you can be nurses to heal people, auto techs to fix our cars, teachers to teach the kids, right? Artists, business people. You should be getting paid for improving yourself, not paying. Well, in Denmark, you do. Also, if you reproduce, if you reproduce in America, you get to stay home, and you might get paid or might not to take care of your kid for a while. But in Denmark, you get paid to stay home, and the mother can stay home, father can stay home. One can stay home for a year, another for a year. However, if you want free college and you want to get paid to be a good parent for a few years, and we haven't even gotten health care yet, you get health care provided to you. Notice I didn't say free. Health care provided to you. You got to pay a lot of taxes, right? You got to pay a lot of taxes. About 50% of your income in Denmark goes to taxes. In New York State, it's like close to 40%. It's a lot. 35, 40%. But, it's like in the 35% range in America, give or take. A lot of that depends on certain things. But in Denmark, it's 50%. However, you break your leg, you don't have to worry about health insurance, a copay, any of that stuff. You get paid to go to college to become better. This is what we call sort of Scandinavian socialism. Norway and Sweden have similar systems. The Netherlands, Belgium, a little less so. So European countries tend to be a little more socialist. But in America, college, it is regulated, but it is somewhat capitalist. So college, we have private schools, and then we also have socialist schools. So we're splitting that one apart. Cars, right? Cars, completely private. However, plenty of government regulation. Otherwise, they wouldn't be very safe, right? And airbags and all of that stuff. But generally, cars are private because not everybody needs a car, right? You can ride a bicycle, you can walk, move to a city, ride a subway. Food has to be regulated, but we still need some competition with food, so we'll put that here. Now, healthcare, that's a gollywhopper right there. And a couple of you mentioned Obamacare in your comments about socialism. First off, Obamacare is not even really a thing. So President Obama and the United States Congress passed what we now call Obamacare, or the Affordable Care Act. And it's a lot of regulation on health care, and it requires people to buy health insurance or pay a tax if they don't buy health insurance. If you're lucky, you get it from your employer. Columbia Green provides me with exceptional health insurance. So Obamacare, you don't get Obamacare. It's not an insurance plan. The government does have an insurance plan. If you're old, if you're over 65 or 67, you get Medicare. So we do have government socialized medicine if you are old, because they require a lot of health care and they don't work. So if you're old, Medicare is pretty good, right? Medicare is pretty good. You can buy a supplement. It's not perfect. But healthcare is an interesting one. And if you're not going to have some sort of form of public health care, what happens? So let's say I don't have health insurance. My choice. I'm an American. I don't need health insurance. And I'm out running my chainsaw. And I cut a big hunk of my leg off. And I go to the emergency room and my leg is bleeding and part of it's not there. And somebody comes out with a clipboard and says, hey, you got a problem there, don't you, bud? Do you have health insurance? And I'm like, no, I don't. Please, fix my leg. That leg, that's going to cost like 30 grand at least to put that leg back on. Do you have 30,000? I really don't. I just spent money on this chainsaw and, I bought a new car. I can't pay for it. All right, sorry, we can't help you, right? So if I go to buy a new car and I'm like, I don't have the money, can I have it for free? They're going to be like, ha! If I cut my leg off and I don't have the money, my leg is still going to get fixed, right? I'll get a big bill, I won't pay it. That bill has to be passed on to the taxpayers. Somehow it gets passed on to people who do have health insurance. So, if you're going to really have private health care, which some people say it should all be private, you got to let people die on the sidewalk if they don't have it, right? That seems a little cruel to me. Over here, socialized medicine, where it doesn't matter. If I am a human in the United States of America, all right, if you want to limit it to citizens, that's a whole other conversation. But I don't have to, socialized medicine is, I don't have to worry a bit about health care. If I'm sick, I go to the doctor, the government pays for it. Maybe the doctor works for the government, that's a side issue. But I don't have to worry about a job with health insurance. I can have 3 part-time jobs to make enough money to pay my bills. I don't have to worry about a full-time job with benefits, right? A lot of people, I need a job with benefits and I need health insurance, which you do. All right, the other good thing about Obamacare, side note, tangent alert, a part of the Obamacare law is you can stay on your parents' health insurance till you're 26. That was new, and that's a pretty big deal, and people love that. Some of you are very fortunate. It used to be you had to be a full-time student. But anyway. So healthcare, that is my last example here, and that is the big question of our time. Should it be completely private? Should it be completely socialism? Should it be government regulated? Professor Berninger's personal view, I think it should be a human right in this country. You do not have to share that view, right? I'm not telling you how to think. I'm telling you to think. I'm trying to help you think. I'm not telling you how to think, right? I'm trying to help you think and show you someone who's thinking, but you do not have to agree with me when I make a statement like, I think everyone should have health care in this country provided by the government. You do not have to agree with that. All right. I can tell you this as a fact. Healthcare is a mess in our country. We spend way, way more per person in this country on healthcare than any other country in the world. So currently we spend way more on health insurance per person than any other country on earth by a lot. However, we're not very healthy. We're like, 15th in health or 30th. I should have looked this up, but we spend by far the most and we have very poor outcomes. We are unhealthy, right? In Canada, they have socialized medicine, and you hear stories about, people have to wait 6 months to see the doctor, blah, 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 blah. Well, I tell you one thing, in Canada, both men and women live 2 years longer than men and women in the United States. So 2 years, might not mean a lot to you when you're 20, but when you're 82 and you're going to die or go to 84, it might mean something. So, there is something wrong with our healthcare system in this country because we spend so much and we get not the best results. Not the best results. It's a little more complex than that, but in some ways not. So, healthcare, government regulation. The government now requires you to buy health insurance. If you don't have it, maybe your employer buys it from a private company. To me, it's everybody should be entitled to have health insurance. There should at least be a public option for people to buy, but again, you don't have to share that view. So, way over here on socialism in America, we have school, K through 12, right? That's socialist. Plumbers you have to pay for, but sewer and waters generally the government provides for. Fire department, roads, right? Even though you pay a toll around here. Police, that's good, right? Electricity, everybody's entitled to it, but it's private companies. Food is regulated. Sex workers. And over here in the private zone, we have iPhones. We know what happens there. We know how those are made. Cars, right? Private car insurance. Social media is a good question. Shoe factory. You know, free shoes for everybody. Let's make that socialist. No, we won't do it. So anyway, to wrap up here in the last 4 minutes, I almost want to say ignore the word socialism when you hear about it. Or either ignore it or pay really close attention so you can figure out what the person is trying to say. The question becomes, what is the government's role in our lives? On this side of things, extreme left socialism, the government owns everything. But the people vote and the people pick the leaders. It has not worked. Extreme capitalism over here. That's what we saw in the late 19th century. And you have some of the richest people in the history of the world, right? Morgan and Carnegie and Rockefeller. And you have people in America working in horrid conditions. Healthcare didn't even exist, by the way. Even if you were rich, there was almost no healthcare. So that wasn't an issue. That's another thing about healthcare is, why is this a big issue these days? Because we have it, right? 1865, there wasn't much of it. You didn't have to worry about health insurance. You just died or you got better. You know, there was a little bit of doctoring, but not much. So we see hyper extreme capitalism in the late 19th century, and we all know that was not good. You imagine those kids working on those looms. So the government says, hey, you can't work when you're 8, 10 years old. Maybe when you're 14 or 15, you can get working papers. I don't know what the law is now. You know, and there's certain limits on what you can do and can't do with age. I think we can all agree that that's good government regulation. So extreme socialism, extreme capitalism in America, late 1800s, industrialization, capital led to that pretty dark time period for the everyday American citizen. You know, we exist somewhere in the middle here, and you need to understand this so you can pick government officials. You can go to the voting booth and say, you know, what do I want here? Which do I want more of this? Do I want more of that? And I hope that that's what I've helped you with here today. And you can also plan on an exam question asking about this. So I hope it made some sense to you. One last thing, since I have a couple minutes left. One other government regulation that is hot in the news today, minimum wage. Should the government set a minimum wage? That's moving in this direction, left socialism. No, free market, capitalism, no minimum wage. Well, right now, the national minimum wage, I think, is $7.25 an hour, and it's been that way for a long time. I mean, in New York State, nobody makes that. Everybody makes a little more than that, I think. But right now, this week, it may get pushed to $15 an hour over time, okay, folks? If $15 an hour minimum wage gets passed, it's not happening next week. It'll happen by the year 2025. It will go up gradually. So minimum wage is very interesting, and there's debates on both sides of the issue, but that is a big government role in labor these days, setting a minimum wage. See ya.